Hey, good morning. My name is Mike Lawrence. I'm lead pastor here at Faith Community Church. And obviously we're in a different setting this morning because we got a tremendous treat for you. So last week I was talking about what God's vision is for humanity, how he created us to be a family. And that fell apart pretty quickly. And then history has been a story of human violence and God's desire to reclaim his family, all the way to the cross. I mean, when Jesus came, he came to fulfill God's original intention that we would live together in love. When Jesus said, as the Father has loved me, so you must love one another. Hey, but that doesn't always work out well. It's not always easy. Matter of fact, it's really hard. So on this journey that I've been through in terms of awakening, I would say, to the struggles that my brothers and sisters in Christ and fellow human beings have been facing around race, I thought it might be good for us to just have a conversation with a family in our church that I deeply love, that I've known the whole time I've been here. They could tell stories about me, but they've promised not to, right? But they're going to tell some stories about themselves. And I thought you would love to listen, because I honestly think that I can't see the world through anyone else's eyes but my own. And I'm a white male, suburban church. In order for me to understand the life that others live, I got to listen to their stories to see their life through their eyes. And so I want to welcome my friends, the Burtons. I've got two generations here, Steve and Jenny Burton, and their beautiful daughter, Kayla. Kayla is a sportscaster out in Western Massachusetts. Steve's a sportscaster with WBZ, and Jenny keeps the whole family from falling apart. So guys, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, you got generations in your family that have been in America, and your dad is in the Patriots Hall of Fame because he was the first draft choice of the Boston Patriots, and he was a black player. You've got a long story of what it means to be an athlete, to be black, to be in professional sports broadcasting. You're an interracial couple, and you face some real challenges with that as well. And Kayla, I know that there's been issues that you've struggled with throughout your life, being both black and coming from an interracial family. So I thought if you'd be okay, we'd have some conversations and just tell some stories.
Sure.
You were actually married at this church in our prior location by Dick Germain.
No, we were married at a different church in Framingham.
Framingham.
Yes, but I can go back in time because I missed my anniversary and she threw me under the bus for that.
Every year, and it's 2 days after my birthday.
Okay. But that's not why we're here. Okay. But I do remember, because it was a black-white marriage, going back in time. And at that time, I remember I was very close to Jenny's parents.
Okay.
As friends. And we met in college, and we became the best of friends. And her parents would have me over the house all the time.
All the time?
All the time.
And you're both Christians at this time?
Both Christians at the time. And then I started to like her. Then we started falling in love. And they had a problem with it. They had a serious problem with it. And I saw them change. And it caught me off guard because I thought I was close to them. And then when we started falling in love and we started thinking about marriage, I remember having to go and knock on their door to ask for their daughter in marriage.
So you did that even though you knew that her parents were against the relationship. You still went to ask for their blessing.
Yes.
Why would you do that?
Because I wanted.
Bold move, bro. Bold move, bro. Go on.
I wanted to do it correctly, and I prayed about it, and it was one of those things that I wanted to do it the right way. I knew the answer was going to be no, but I still wanted to go to the house. And I remember knocking on the door, and her dad answered the door, and he shut the door in my face. And then the mom came to the door and said, "Come in." And I said, "I think you guys know the reason why I'm here." And he said, "Stop. Don't even go there." And I said, "Well, I came here to tell you that I love your daughter, and I also love you guys.
Wow.
And I'd like to ask for your blessing to marry your daughter." And he said flat out, "No, you have no chance of marrying my daughter. And if you ever have kids, If that would have happened, we'd never welcome your kids into our house.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow.
And I said, well, I just wanted to do my part to come over and ask. I still love you, and I love your daughter. And then I walked out of the house. And one of the things that I had before I went there was a discussion with my parents.
Okay.
And my parents told me to just love them anyway. No matter what they say, love them anyway, because that's how Christ would do it.
That's the key, right? Because a lot of people would say, Steve, you had every right to be angry,
Right.
and to reject them and not even go and to just move on.
Well, Jenny, you can tell, because we went around to a lot of black-white marriages, right?
We did. We just wanted to kind of not be naive going into this whole thing, and even as Christian, I was trying to honor my parents. I was the kid that was the pleaser and did all the things that were right, and so it was a really difficult shift in my role with them to be the one that was defying them. And so we would go around. We went to several couples that were married, and they basically said, don't do it. Like, we haven't talked to our parents, and it's over.
Really?
But they weren't Christians.
Right. And they said the parents would never come around. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. Don't do it.
But our approach was different. Like, we sought out Christian counseling, and this was really the first time I feel like, for me, I had to stand up for something in love, but for what was right. I knew their position was not right, but I wanted to love them too and respect them. I wanted to honor them. And we really, it took a lot of self-discipline, because very hurtful things were said. Told it would be better if I were a drug addict, among a million other things. And I know Steve used to say, well, I'm not that bad.
Well, maybe I am,
but we really sought out to respond in love. We knew that we said, kind of this phrase, what would Jesus do? Well, he'd love them. But it wasn't like, it's okay what you're saying. Yeah. It's not, but we love you, and we're trying our best to understand, but we're going forward. And that's what we did. We went forward, and I moved out here by myself. They were having nothing to do with our wedding, and my mom came around maybe about 2 or 3 months beforehand. She said, I'm coming without you, which was a big deal.
Without the dad.
Without my father. They were kind of this corporate country club couple, and successful, whatever that means, and then really 3 days before we were getting married, my dad called and said, "Would you still have me? Can I walk you down the aisle?"
Wow.
And
but let me give you a sense of what her dad was like.
Now, I know what you're going to say, and this really doesn't have anything to do with
I just want to give the image. I want to give Mike the image. I know you
wasn't born yet.
You wouldn't know this show.
Yeah,
but Mary Tyler Moore, Ted Knight,
Yeah.
that was her dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was really impressed with the
The
image.
image is important.
But here's what I loved about her dad. He was very direct. He was very direct. And I remember knocking on that door, and he looked me straight in the eye. He goes, "You're black, and I got a problem with that."
Wow.
And he said that to me point blank. And my answer was, "Mr. Vath, you're right. I am black. God made me that way.
Wow.
But I still love your daughter, and I still love you."
Wow.
It's funny. For a while, we have 4 kids, and for a while, they never knew this part of the story. They just thought everything was awesome all the time when they would go and visit my parents, and then we had a discussion, and we realized that we would be denying them part of their story, because God moved in an incredible way in our relationship and in my relationship with my parents, and that was part of their legacy. And so we wanted them to know that that was their story too.
Because the parents came around.
100%.
And he became
completely
my best friend.
Yeah.
Really?
After that. Because he struggled within. There was nothing he could fight against except for the struggle that he had inside his heart. And it was like, he goes, I remember him saying, "I want to hate you, and I can't." And I saw the struggle that he was struggling with. "I can't hate you."
He literally said that?
He said that to me. He goes, "I want to hate you, and I can't." Because I was always good to him. And I was always loving him. And it was like, I can't, but I just can't get I had this picture of my daughter getting married, and you weren't part of that picture.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, "Your kids will never be welcome in our house, all this and all that. And the irony is they came 180 degrees.
So Kayla, what was your relationship like with your mom's parents?
Well, the irony is, my mom makes a good point. We had no clue. Like they would leave us. They were in Florida when we'd go visit them, so we had bathing suits on, gifts, they had a pool, goggles, like all the gifts in the world. Like we thought we loved going to their house because, growing up, because we didn't, I didn't know. And even when we found out, I was shocked because they just loved us so much. Like it didn't even make sense to me because I was like, Nana and Pop-Up, like. No, like I was almost thinking they were lying. Like they didn't make sense. I was like, yeah, I'm going Nana and Pop-Up. You guys don't make any sense. Like she loves me and I'm mixed, and you know what? She likes me more than you guys. Like I don't know.
Well, it's the irony.
But well, you know what? I know my Nana and Pop-Up died at a pretty young age. But one of the memories I do really remember was growing up. Obviously, this one over here made us get up, and she did too, playing basketball.
Early in the morning.
Yeah, and we can figure out. He goes, whatever I remember my sister throwing a fit. I'm not playing basketball anymore. And he goes, Kendall, pick whatever you want to do. You can play the trumpet for all I care, but your behind is getting up to work at it. So we ended up playing basketball because we liked it. And I remember crying because that's kind of like what I did when I didn't like to do something growing up. And I was yelling at him, and I was like, I hate this. I don't want to do it. And I was shooting. And my Pop-Up, he was old and sick at the time. He had cancer, and he was sitting in a chair, and he goes, Kayla, and he goes, come here. And I look at him, and he goes, and I had to make 10 shots, and I made like 7. And he goes, you're gonna make the 10. He goes, your dad's out here rebounding you. You can do it. You're gonna make the 10. You're not leaving until you make the 10. And that to me was, at that point I was just furious with everyone. But looking back on it, for them to tell me this story, and for me to think of where I heard they were at the time, and how they were back against the racism in this, and to see how much my Pop-Up had my dad's back, was just, it's so hard for me to see that, because to hear that story, that's what gives me faith till this day, is seeing how, from hearing about where my Nana and Pop-Up were at, where their hearts were at the time, and for me to only witness the love for my dad and their relationship and the support, I couldn't even believe it.
That's how I know people can change. People can change if you respond in love. And the irony is, they went from, we'll never allow your kids into our house, to buying a house up in New Hampshire. They lived in Chicago. They had a Florida house, and they bought a house up in New Hampshire just to be closer to the kids.
Wow.
So people can change with love in your heart.
Talking about they never.
Jenny, you said something earlier where you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're just like, when you love someone, you take everything else away from them.
Yeah. As I listened to you talk about my dad and the way that you responded, when we responded in love, then we couldn't give my father anything to come back at us with. Like, he was just left with himself and his own ideas about what was wrong and right, and he wanted to not like you, and he couldn't. And they said such brutal things to him and to me. It would have been even easier to respond in anger and say horrible things back. I think of social media now and those same urges when you see horrible things said in response to a message or something good, and you want to respond back. Like, it's how you protect yourself almost. And we fought that because we were really intentional about loving in response. And once we realized, yeah, this is what we're supposed to do. First of all, it's what we're supposed to do. It's what Jesus would do. It wasn't even hard to do that. And the hard part was for my father to sit with himself. And I think if we don't keep equipping people with our nastiness in response, it's justified, then maybe people have to wrestle with themselves a little bit. And people, to your point, can change.
And it's really where your heart's at.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed this coming over here, is where are people's hearts at?
Right. What's the heart condition?
What's the heart condition?
Right.
You know, what doesn't matter what color you are, it's where's your heart?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Can you
Well, you can say it better than I do, because you know, it's just really checking yourself, you know, because she's white, I'm black, but we still bleed red. right? We all bleed red. But where's the love that you have in your heart? That's really how you overcome all this stuff.
I think, in these times and the way this has been going, one of the things that we've talked about is just a humility of heart in being able to listen. I know, Mike, that we've talked to you, and the shift for you, the shift for me. I've been in a relationship for 38 years with Steve, married for 31, and I'm still find myself, like you, just kind of humbling myself, listening and learning still. And I got 4 kids that I've raised, kids of color. I've got a husband that's black, and I still find myself just humbling my heart, humbling myself, and learning. And our youngest, Veronica, our youngest child, all of these guys, I'm learning from them. Like, we still can learn, no matter how non-racist we are, which, don't get me started on that, but no matter where you come from or how good a Christian you are. And I think there are, people, their hearts are in the right place, many people. But we still need to humble ourselves and humble our hearts and listen to the stories being told.
That's that's the hard part, is to just listen. Not trying to comment on it or to try to disagree with it, just hear the story.
Just hear so that's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
There's one thing that you mentioned that I want to just add to there that just stumbled upon my mind. We do all bleed red, I hope everyone can and get to know Christ. I think that's like the first and foremost thing of all of this. But I also think it's not necessarily we all bleed red, so we all see each other as just like we're all one union, and in a way we definitely are. But I also don't want to miss the part that we're saying, oh, I don't see color because we're all one. No, it's you do see color, and you love that color. Like, you love that I'm mixed. You love that he's black. You love that she's white. Like, I think it boils me and irritates me when someone's like, and it's hard because I know their intentions are in the right place. It's not like, I mean, the people I've come across, their intentions are they're meaning well. They genuinely are trying to say, like, I accept you for you. I don't see that you're black. And I'm like, well, black's me. I am black. And I'm white. I'm both. I'm mixed. And for you to disacknowledge that because it's uncomfortable is a problem to me. And I think that that's a big problem in the world right now is there's a lot of confusion with that. It's like people feel awkward. I know what my mom has asked us, like, is this okay to say? And she's been having our back since day one when it was really, really difficult. And she still is vouching for us till this day, but is asking questions like even her, who's lived with kids of color and dating, marrying you, who's black. Like, she's been through that. She's lived with us, and she still has questions, because she technically is not of color. She's not of color. She doesn't know our experiences. But you can still vouch for someone. You can still recognize black people and love that without trying to just disacknowledge it and move forward.
So you've had athletics has been an important part of your family all along. How's the journey been, though, from your dad to you to Kayla? I mean, the experience is 3 generations of athletes here. How's it been?
It's been great. Well, my dad, because he was so big into sports, he taught us that sports brings people together. And when he started the Burton Training Village, he goes, I want to bring people of all colors, all races. I don't care who they are. Let's bring them in together. Let's teach them how to love, and let's teach them how to get better. And so we saw people unite, and it's been great for us.
So, but you say sports brings people together. We want to see people of all races unite together, but that wasn't always your dad's experience.
No, it wasn't always my dad's experience. No, it wasn't. I mean, there was times, I think, did I tell the story already about New Orleans? Oh, I have not. No, it wasn't always my dad's experience. As a matter of fact, when he first played for the Patriots, they had to go down to New Orleans and play an exhibition game. Now, New Orleans didn't have a football team back then. And Billy Sullivan, the owner of the Patriots, goes to my dad, who was the #1 draft pick, and he goes, listen, we need you to come down and play in New Orleans. And but you don't have to go. Here's the problem that you're going to have. You have to stay in a separate hotel from the rest of your teammates. Now, I'm going to leave it up to you whether or not you want to go. I would like for you to go because eventually there's going to be football in New Orleans. And eventually there'll be African-American players in New Orleans. And my dad goes, you know what? I'll go. If you want me to go, I'll go. And he went. And I remember he is telling me that the rest of the black players on his team got angry with him for wanting to go. But because he was the number 1 draft pick, they followed. And sure enough, if you look at New Orleans now, they got football down there. And but it was one of those things that he had to overcome. And but he had the right mindset. Now a lot of guys would get angry. A lot of guys would go, I can't stay with these guys. There's no way I'm going. And my dad said, does the hotel have a roof? Yes, Ron, the hotel has a roof. Does it have a bed? 4 walls? Yes, there's a bed and 4 walls. He goes, if you want me to go, I'll go. And he goes, I will try and rise above this and make this better.
So what motivated your dad to go from an experience where sports did not unite to wanting to make it into something that did unite people?
Because he, in his heart, he was about bringing people together. He was about helping others, and it didn't matter who you were, that if we do it in love, we can bring people together and make this place better.
Wow. That's extraordinary.
That's what he was about. Wow. And that passed down to me, and I hope I passed it down to her.
Wow. How so? Did it?
You did all right. No, yeah, no, it did. I think my experience, playing track running track and then playing basketball and ultimately just focusing on basketball, it's a mix of black, white, at my high school, predominantly white. And sports was just a release. It's a platform of freedom where I agree with you. I think that it's just a place where you're not thinking about that stuff. You're not thinking about the color of your skin. You're not thinking about the even socially, like just forget race, even just problems in school. Like it's just a place where you can just play ball and you don't have to worry about the person you're passing to. Oh, is she white? Is she black? No, you're passing the ball because she's open or she's not. And if you're, petty, you'll have, that's a different story. But regardless, like it is just an area where I love because it was a place where you could just unite and just play. But
on the court would be different than in the class?
Yeah, it got a little different. Yeah, it was different. My personality, for me, I think it's to each their own experience. Growing up in Hopkinton, where it's predominantly white, I think I didn't even know I was black until I stepped out. But I didn't know. Like I would wear my hair back so tight, where my hairline was receding, and he would always yell at me, "Can't stop wearing your hair like that. Stop wearing your hair like that." But and I was so frustrated because I would never wear it down. Honestly, like I knew my hair was poofy, different. It didn't look anything like any other girl growing up. And looking back on that, it makes sense to me a little bit as to why I did that. Is because I wasn't comfortable being biracial. I didn't see anyone else who was like me. And so we eventually moved to Newton, and I started to see more people. I experienced different friend groups. I remember I was only friends with black people when I first got there. And then they know, like I was only friends with black people. And then eventually I was only friends with white people. Like my high school was such a shift of friends, and I didn't know how to combine the two worlds. I felt like I was living a separate black and white world and trying to figure it all out and didn't know how to combine it. And to your point about sports, I didn't have to think about that. It was just sports. But outside of that, I'm the type of personality that at that time where I would just like to make people happy. So there would be comments that were made towards me that I was dating I had a white boyfriend in high school. They said a lot of his friends were predominantly white. "Oh, you got jungle fever, bro. You got jungle fever." And I had to go ask them what's jungle fever because I didn't even know what that means. If you don't know what it means, it's not good if you're black. But anyway, I didn't know what that meant, and they told me, and I was definitely hurt. Like I felt awkward because I remember just laughing, and I remember actually my boyfriend at that time, he was mad about it. He's like, "Don't stop saying that, stop saying that." And that's when it brought to my attention, okay, there's something negative about this term. But, you know, that wasn't the only thing. There were, Kayla, you're black, but you're not, you know, you're not really black. You're black, but you're not really black. And at that time, I would laugh. Like anything, I would just cope with laughing because I felt so uncomfortable making that person uncomfortable if I told them the truth. Yeah. If I told them really what you're saying is not okay. Because I am black. I don't have to act a certain way. I don't have to, you know, I don't fit the stereotype of whatever you believe black is supposed to be, or white. I'm me. And I didn't have the boldness or the confidence to do that because I didn't know. You know, I was young. I didn't know.
But it was a struggle that you faced that as a white kid I would never have faced. Right? You know, but you kind of felt like you had. Did you ever feel like you're in two worlds or didn't quite belong to either world? Or
I remember even having a conversation. Some of the people of color students like pulled me aside. They're like, hey, Kayla, we have this meeting after school. We want you to come to it. And it's predominantly mixed kids and black kids too going. I was like, yeah, of course I'll go. And I remember sitting down with them and we had an open talk about race. And this is like really uncomfortable for me because at that time I didn't really talk about race. I knew I was mixed. I had my friend groups. I was playing basketball and going to church. Like that really was like kind of my world. So race was not something that I really wanted to get too much into because I felt uncomfortable talking about it because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I remember he was mixed, he was same skin, biracial, and he goes, how do you identify yourself, black or white? And I'm like, well, how do you identify yourself, black or white? Like, we're the same, buddy. And he identified himself as black. And I was so, like,
really?
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. Because I'm like, but you're white. Like, I'm like, hey, buddy, you need to go check your birth certificate. Like, I promise you you're both. But and that was the first, and he goes, well, what about you? And I was like, well, I'm mixed. He was like, no, you got to pick one or the other. And I was so shocked. I didn't know. I was like, this doesn't make any, I was mad and I left. I was like, you know, I respect you. I appreciate you bringing me here. I want to be a part of this conversation, but you don't have to tell me who I am or what race I need to choose. And I was so mad at the time. And in a way I understand now what he means by that, because it was at that time, and when the high school that I grew up in, it was such a divide between black people and white people. And even at lunch tables, black kids only sat with black kids, white kids only sat with white kids. Yeah, I had friends on both.
This is progressive Massachusetts we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Newton, no less.
Wow. Newton. And some of my best friends till this day, you know? They are my best friends till this day. But yeah, I remember going between lunch tables. I would say I'd have a half hour. I'd be like, okay, 15 minutes, I'm hanging out with you guys. And then I go see my black friends.
Because, did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know because you didn't care. But I had to go. All he cared about was basketball. Yeah, I was like,
wow.
He's like, how's your day? Good? All right, you're waking up at 5 tomorrow. That was the Burton routine. But, and you know what? I will give you credit. I'm thankful that I didn't focus too heavily on it. I really am, because I'm seeing how much I could have been upset about. And I'm not saying that we should justify it and just ignore it, but I'm saying that I've seen their relationship, and they teach love. I literally witnessed love, and I witnessed some other stuff too, but I witnessed love, and that's something that I always have, you know, held near and dear to my heart, and same with my siblings, because it can bring you down if you let it, and I think that it's still important to correct. I think it's still important to make sure that if your friend is making a joke that's not okay with me, you know, like I said, like, Kayla, you're black, but you're not really black. It's like, no, you know, wait, I am black. I am really black. And I'm also Kayla, you know, and I love you. Like, and I wish I knew that at the time, and I didn't. I can't expect myself to, because I was young and trying to figure it all out. But, so yeah, in a way I was thankful that I wasn't so set on it, because I witnessed other of my black friends so angry with me. Kayla, how are you friends with these people? They were furious. Remember I came home and got in a fight with one of the girls? Because, but they were, I got sent home because we got in a fight. But because I just didn't understand how much anger. I was like, just accept it and move on. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it is what it is. And now I vouch for my friends of color, because not in a way that I want to be angry necessarily about it, but I understand where the anger comes from, because it's true. Imagine if you're getting, you know, shut down for the things you're doing just because you're of color. How crazy is that to think about? And I think that that's so missed. And instead we just look at this person's angry instead of, you know, why?
But sometimes God will put you in situations, Mike, right? And if you're really living for his kingdom, you know, he made you a certain way. He knows what you're going to go through. And I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Hopkinton, I don't even know if you know this story, Kayla. When we first moved to Hopkinton, where, you know where I'm going.
I definitely know.
We had to, I was in a van, and I had my brother helping us move into the house. And we're taking garbage out of our garage, and I have to put it at the end of our driveway. We lived in a long driveway, put it at the end of the driveway. And all of a sudden, a police car starts driving up the driveway, driving up the road. Middle of the day, I'm not even in the van. I'm just unloading boxes, which is trash, at the end of our driveway. And my brother goes to me, "Oh no, here we go." And I got mad at my brother, Phil. I said, "Phil, don't be like that. Come on, man, don't." And sure enough, as soon as he finished the word go, lights flash.
The lights came on?
Lights came on. Guy pulls up, says, "License and registration." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "License and registration." I said, "I'm not even driving." I said, "The car's parked." I said, "The van's parked." He goes, "License and registration." I said, "Well, I live here." He goes, "You live here?" I said, "Yeah, we're just moving in." "License and registration." Well, so I go to the van and I reach for my wallet, which is on the front seat of the van. And he puts his hand on his gun. And Phil's like this the entire time.
This is your brother, Phil.
My brother, Phil. And I pulled my wallet out very slowly. And I said, "Here, sir. Here's my license and registration." And he saw who I was. And he goes, "Oh my goodness, Mr. Burton, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you did." And what he didn't know was that I was very good friends with the police chief of Hopkinton. As a matter of fact, we had gone to a Red Sox game 3 days earlier. And this guy was scared to death that I was going to turn him in. And I didn't. But I looked at him. I said, "What have you learned?"
You asked him that.
I said, "What have you learned?" And he goes to me, "Not to judge." He goes, "I was wrong. I was dead wrong, and I'm so sorry." And he was so scared that I was going to have him fired or turn him in because I was close to, and I love the Hopkinton police. I really do. I mean, those guys are great guys. And we became friends after that. Now, I could have been angry.
I was angry.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, she was angry.
I was wild.
No, but the thing is,
because I had that. It was like I'd seen you pulled over before when we were dating,
right?
But he couldn't believe that Steve lived there, and you had to prove that you lived there, and your address hadn't changed on your license.
Yeah, my address hadn't changed
because we just moved there.
We just moved in, and
I was.
She was livid, but the thing is, I'm like, but wait a minute, Jenny. Maybe God put me in this position to show him about himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about me, right? And it's about a bigger picture. And we became friends after that. And he totally looked in the mirror at himself, and it was like I saw him change. And the Hopkins police have been phenomenal. And as a matter of fact, they became so phenomenal that they even would come by and check on our house. And he would come by and check on our house just to make sure that we were okay after that. But I saw him change.
Yeah.
But that's not everyone's story, right, Steve?
No, that's not everyone's
story. You were whatever, Steve Burton.
No, but I didn't want to do it because I was Steve Burton. No, but you're missing the point. The point that I was trying to make is
you're right. I agree with that point.
I could, like, my brother was like, you know, you could have handled that different, but you didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You could have been angry. You could have, I'm not showing you my license. I'm not even driving. Are you kidding me? What is all this about? I said, "Here, sir. Here's my license and registration." And because of that, he had to look in the mirror at himself.
But that's a choice that you had to make that I don't have to make.
Right.
You know, all the places I've ever moved into, I've never had to be concerned if a police car drives by while I'm loading or unloading.
Right.
And that you have to prove that you live there.
We saw two black guys unloading a white van.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it looks suspicious. And it was like, well, wait a minute, we're just unloading trash here.
You know, one of the things that's happened in these recent, times, we've had a lot of discussions, even like Kayla's discussion about that situation with that student and who do you identify with. Like these kinds of discussions we didn't really talk about. And I remember we were talking at dinner, and Austin, our son, said, oh, well, that time when I got pulled over in Newton with my 2 black teammates, and none of us, of course, knew this.
No, we didn't know this at all.
And he said, I rolled through a stop sign.
And he looks lighter than all of us.
Yeah. But he's with 2 of his teammates from UCLA.
Well, if you rolled through a stop sign, then he has a right to be pulled over.
No, he admitted that. You let her tell the story.
Okay. And so, rolled through the stop sign, cop, he gets pulled over by a police officer. And Austin, in his mind, was thinking, I rolled through a stop sign, to your point.
Oh, okay.
And I'm getting busted for it. And the police officer said to him, okay, who's packing the weed? Like, there was not a word. This is just like last year. And we're all at dinner. This is like a month ago when we were all stuck in COVID. And we're like, when did that happen? And like, there was one story after another that like, that were, and it was bad. Like it had nothing to do with you rolled through a stop sign, and then he got called on something and the police officer said to him how lucky he was that he had to go.
Yeah, he said he was lucky.
That he was lucky.
He's like, you're lucky I have to go.
But one of the things that I do want to stress is that people now have a thing against the police. And I don't think, you're going to have bad people everywhere, but that doesn't mean all the police are bad. Mm-hmm. You're going to have pockets of people that are bad everywhere, right? But that doesn't mean that all the police are bad. That doesn't mean that all this group is bad. And I really want people to know that, because I think that's important. I mean, we need the police.
Yeah. I asked earlier, what was it like to come to a church like ours? Right? We're not known for our racial diversity, though it's something we are working on, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but obviously, was it different for you guys coming into our church?
I remember we were at the old church at the center of town, and I do have to say that the first thing I remember is a woman who came up to me immediately to welcome us. She was young, and her name was Sheila Lawrence. So shout out to Sheila, because that is a vivid memory to me. I know that we felt welcomed.
Yes, we did. You're making Mike look good right now.
Well, I'm just speaking the truth.
She looks good all by herself.
She always makes me look good.
Sheila got to go on.
But I have to say that there are times, not even in that long ago, before all this, that I've looked around our church and I've thought to myself, I wonder how people in this church would feel if they were in a church that was entirely black with just, 5 white people in it. Like, do people think about that? Like, what would that feel like? I don't think they think that. And I think maybe now, people are thinking about that kind of thing more. Like when you watch TV and you see how white it is or whatever it is, wherever you are, you see that. And I'm grateful for that. I think it's an important awakening for people. It's hitting different.
So are you saying people wouldn't come to church?
I think it's possible.
You think people in this church wouldn't come to church?
I don't know. That's not for me to say. I don't know. But I know that it would feel different to them. If it were an entirely black church, all Christians.
I know.
Everyone's good hearts, good Christians.
Because I felt different, and I am black. When I went to a black church at Lehigh, an all-black church, and I felt different, and I am black. So that's how you know some people may feel a little bit different.
Okay, all right, I give you that.
But actually, so that brings up a point though, when people say they don't see color. And that's like Exhibit A of I'm not sure that's really true.
Wait. You felt uncomfortable going to all black church?
Yeah, and that's your fault because you didn't tell me I was black till I stood at Hopkinton.
Wait, okay.
I love Hopkinton, don't get me wrong. Hopkinton's my number one.
Okay, but to your point, I remember an experience I had when I was youth pastor in West Philly in a black church where the Reverend had marched with Dr. King. And he looked at me and he invited me to share communion with him. He's like, hey, let's do communion together. And I stopped and I said, Reverend Pinckney, did you ever think the day would come when you would have a white pastor assisting you in doing communion. I remember him stopping, and he goes, you know, I never thought that day would come.
Wow. Wow.
And we walked out together, and I assisted him in communion. It was a black church, and I remember that thought. It's like, would I come to this church every Sunday if I lived in West Philly? I'd like to think yes, but I don't know. I want to believe I would.
So we're all worshiping Jesus there.
Right?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
but race all of a sudden makes it a decision, right?
Right. It shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
You know, it's funny. I've thought about even along those lines, the Ron Burton Training Village, that we've been there for 7 years.
Okay, so let's stop before you do it, because we're going to need to explain that. Not everybody's going to know what that is, right? But then I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure they understand it.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain for a minute what the Ron Burton Training Village is, and then tell your story.
The short version.
The short version.
Okay, the short version. So my dad's dream was, if he ever made it, he wanted to give it all back. So we wanted to create a place for underprivileged kids. No matter what race they were, no matter what color they were, no matter what they had, to bring everybody together to help them make them better. Better athletes, better students, better people. And so he went out and bought land, and he developed a place called the Ron Burton Training Village. And now we've been in existence for a while, for a long time, and we see kids change. And they don't care what color you are. They don't even, everybody gets along, and we see them come together.
Well, they embrace it. They embrace the color you are. Like, we have relay races. You mentioned this to my mom mentioned this to me, and I love it, because there's black kids, white kids, Puerto Ricans, Dominican, Brazilian. We have Asian. Every single race that you could think of is there. And in the mornings, we have, they just love each other. Like, white kids jumping on black kids in the pool, black kids jump, it doesn't matter. Everyone's a brother and sister. It's so neat, and it's just a place of freedom that they embrace it so much, and they know where the line is drawn when you can't make certain comments, or it's inappropriate to make certain comments. But they also embrace each other. Like, we have Team Sunscreen when all the white kids get burnt by the sun, and then there's Team Brazilian, because they embrace the culture. It's not like, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're Brazilian, I don't care if you're Puerto Rican, I don't care if you're white. It's like, no, I love you for it, and you're sunscreen, and we got Team Brazilian. It's so fun to just see the unity and everyone cheering that race on. It's not disacknowledged. And
I've been thinking about, well, why is that? It's almost like during this time, and I think about why it's just this. It's this there's black, Latino, Asian, white, everyone. Race isn't even it's a thing, but it's not a thing, and it's based. Your dad based it on Christ. First of all, that's the first thing. It was based on love and Christ. 1 Corinthians 13 and love. But the other thing is that we do things together, almost like service project-y. For one example, I was telling you this, Steve, the other day. We have Home Depot as a sponsor, and they bring in 2 massive truckloads full of mulch and flowers and potting soil, and we work together, and we have 600 volunteers. Yeah. With 600 volunteers, WBZ people came, Home Depot, they come to help the underprivileged kids, right? But we're working alongside them, so it's not like the kids that are at our training village that they just sit and let Home Depot plant for them. No, we're working alongside them to make towards a better good. They're working together, laying mulch and getting their fingers in soil and lifting rocks out of the soil and putting them in wheelbarrows. And we're all doing this together. So there's no racial anything. It's relationship building. And I know that many of these people came to help serve these underprivileged young men. But what happens is, we're all working together collectively towards this end. So it's not about that, it's about working together. So there's reconciliation, there's relationship, and there's none of those barriers. And I was thinking that's what the church needs to do, not our church specifically, but the church, because it's so segregated, right? It's and I thought that's what the church needs to do is come together with someone that's different from you and work together towards a collective good where someone is in need, not to hand out to somebody, but to work together. And like I think about the Ron Burton Training Village and that, how that works together racially, and race isn't a thing. It is a thing, and we celebrate it, and we love the diversity, love the diversity, but there are no problems.
See, and that's the gospel.
Right.
Is to celebrate the diversity of culture as an expression of the creativity of God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sin says, if you're different, you're bad.
Yeah.
The gospel says, because we're different, it shows how great God is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the distinction. Having been there a number of times, it's fun being there. Everybody just kind of racking on one another and
mm-hmm.
playing games together. And it is like a family atmosphere.
I think one of the greatest parts about that is that it is, as you guys have been mentioning, it is love. But I think the issue is, in our 2020 generation, not everyone finds that.
Right.
And so as much as we know in Christ love, it's him. Like, he's the answer to all. Like, he is. And I sincerely, genuinely believe that, whether they're my Christian friends or not Christian friends, they know I'm going to say, and they're like, okay, yeah, Kayla, there you go on your Jesus rant or your Christian rant. And unfortunately, that's just how they see the world sometimes. So for some people, love isn't that answer. So it's like, okay, well, then what do you do? And I think that's where, like, we're all trying to figure this whole thing out. But as you guys are mentioning too, and Pastor Mike, you've been mentioning, and what you're doing actually, is listening to people of color situations. You're not trying to have an answer. I think the world is so quick to, like, have that answer or listen to the right message, and then we got it. And then
or have a rebuttal.
Have a rebuttal. And then it becomes this debate. Oh, well, they're rioting. Well, it's like, well, what's the anger? Why are they hurt?
Right.
Why are they hurt? Right. Like, do you think that people are just rioting because, like, yeah, you can look at, do I think it's good? No. But do you see how desperate people are that they think that it's not even going to change? So they're like, screw it. I'm going to take what I can get because I've seen how this world works. It's not going to change. Might as well seize the opportunity and steal. Who knows what the situation is? But the root of it, it's like, that's where we have to look. And whether it's as a Christian group, as your own personal, in your own families, and where in your own reality are you looking to really connect with those who maybe you haven't connected with, maybe you feel uncomfortable, maybe you haven't reached out to certain people of color, and see, well, why have you been hurt? You seem smiling all the time you come to church. You seem fine. The Burtons, they come in half an hour late every single church.
Easy.
Yeah, well, we do, but we came in early this morning. But like, everyone assumes, like, no, in their world they're successful. Like, Dad, you're the exceptional black. Like, you made it. You're fine. You have a good job. But at the root of it, it's like, where it wasn't that easy. I mean, it's literally extended back to slavery. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily the same type of slavery that's happening today, but there is a contemporary type of slavery that's going on. And that's where the anger comes from. It's that it's not, I'm not saying that it's okay to necessarily do what some people are doing during protests or during things, but I think for people to miss where the hurt is coming from.
You're talking about asking questions to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, that's product of good parenting. I just want to point that out, okay?
Thanks, Mike.
One of the things I do want to, 2 more minutes? Okay. One of the things I do want to say is we wanted to teach our kids also to overcome things. Like, if somebody's going to shout something at you, can you still overcome certain things? I remember Kayla was at a basketball game. Kayla, can you give us a short version of this? The rant or the shouts that people were saying to you when you were at the
free throw line.
The mulatto one?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Spray tan.
Right.
Oh God, how could I forget that? It was horrible.
This is in high school?
High school.
This was in high school at Durfee.
Durfee High School.
It was a chorus, like, of hundreds of kids.
It was my 2013, my senior year.
Was this playoffs?
It was playoffs.
Spring.
Packed. What can I get to it? We were playing Durfee, right? It was Durfee. It was in Durfee.
Yeah.
And huge crowds. We had Newt South crowd, Durfee crowd. Everyone had their own side, obviously. And I was at the free throw line, and it was a close game, and I was doing well that game. But I get to the line, and all of a sudden, I've heard, different things thrown at me This one shook me. I was at the line, I was doing my routine. Spray tan, spray tan, spray. I was shook. I mean, I was shook. He said some things to me during practice, but you've never come up with spray tan before. So that one really.
So I would challenge you.
So, yeah.
Well, because what you're saying is you had to face the fact that to rattle you on the game.
I had to come up with different things.
Yeah, but you never came up with spray tan.
No, in fact, I remember when we were at that game and we looked at each other and we go, whoa, we never thought of that one.
And honestly, like I was embarrassed.
I was dying.
Yeah, like you were laughing. I was not laughing. I was embarrassed. And like, mind you, I did go bed tanning sometimes, but it wasn't a spray tan. Okay, so like they got it wrong if they wanted to be correct.
Did you make the foul shots?
Yeah, I did make the foul shots.
And you won
so
the
I did
game.
make the foul shots, but afterwards, after that, I mean, I was mortified. And my teammates were like, "Okay, that was a bad hit. Like, you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, like brush that one off. We're good. We're good." And on Twitter, remember on Twitter? Mm-hmm. On Twitter, they. I found a pick stitch, 2 pictures combined together of me next to a traffic cone. Couldn't make it up. Traffic cone next to a Dorito bag. It is not funny. Next to a Dorito bag. And it is kind of bad. But, and we're laughing because it's like, who does that? But
we didn't come up with that one before.
But the fact that that's literally...
But that's your parenting. Your parenting was you had to teach your daughter how to face against racial slurs.
Right.
She was ready to go to the athletic director.
Right.
You gave me you're not, what does Tom Brady do, even though I'm not Tom Brady.
So you see the difference, like me, I'm ready to call the highest authority on this.
Yeah, she was.
Because that's not my experience. Like, I never...
Right.
Like, you had been dealing with how do you respond in these situations your whole life.
Right. And
For
how do you
me,
overcome it?
just like at the end of the driveway, I was wildly furious and wanted to go to the top because I'd never seen...
And you're almost numb to it.
Well, I try to look at what would Jesus do. How do you respond to that? Can you overcome those obstacles?
Well, I got to the Jesus part eventually, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that wasn't how I was brought.
That's a great description of discipleship. I got to the Jesus part eventually.
The spray tan line was pretty good, though.
It wasn't good.
She was crying.
Yeah, not that he cared.
But it's a great example
You
of
made the
how
shots.
the two of you guys have had to, in order to prepare your children to be good athletes, you have to prepare them to face racial slurs,
Right.
to disarm them on the court.
But they're not only good athletes, just life, to prepare them for life.
Okay.
You have to, there's going to be struggle. You're gonna have obstacles. But how do you respond?
So you're saying you have to teach your kids you're going to have obstacles because
of your race, you're going to have obstacles. But God knows He's not going to give you more than you can handle, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're in that situation, how do you handle it? And not only how do you handle it for the person that you're facing, but how do you handle it when the people are watching you handle it for the person that you're facing?
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Where it's a double whammy for you. You're trying to face somebody who's coming at you.
Right.
And you're thinking to yourself, how do I handle this person? And what's the role model or example I'm giving to everyone watching?
Watching me. Right. I remember we had just gotten married or engaged. We were in Chicago. And we were coming out of a Chicago Bears game. And one guy in the parking lot goes, "Look at that Oriole couple." And I squeezed Jimmy's hand and we just kept walking. And the guy said it louder, "Hey, look at that Oriole couple." And we just kept walking. "Hey, look at that Oriole." And the guy got so mad that we never turned around. We just kept walking. And one guy said to him, "Man, they heard you." They heard you. Now you're looking like an idiot. But we just never, now we could have turned around. And back in my younger days, I may have turned around. But when I accepted Christ in my life, it's like, okay, how do I handle that? Before Christ, we're going.
I would have won.
well, that's the thing. That is the difference in our house. Because if we were to have this discussion at our dinner table, probably all of our children, 2 in particular, one right behind me, would have gone right after that person. Veronica would have too.
Right after.
No, you would have spoken up. You would have spoken up.
We would, because we're taught
and that's not wrong. That's not. I'm not saying that's wrong.
And I agree.
It's different. It's just I feel like it's different. The generational thing is different, and I actually am encouraged by this younger generation. I'm encouraged by their voice, and like they're not letting it just slide.
Right.
Like, I think, well done to them, you know, and I, you know what I mean, Steve?
Yeah, and how they act. But you got to act.
You want to go about
way.
with, yeah, right.
Yeah, you want to do it.
But it's making people think.
Yeah, no question.
And I think that's awesome.
So there's a freedom that you have in the ability to speak because other generations have given you that right.
And I think it's a combination. You know how I was mentioning the combination of not understand, like seeing I'm black and white, but not knowing how to combine it. It's almost like the same similarity to being older, combining what I was taught by these guys, the older generation, to what I've learned in college, and even my younger sister, and the voices today. And that combination is, I'm starting to understand. Like, for me, if someone were to shout that out, I mean, I think there are times where you pick and choose your own battles in ways. Like, there are times where I do just walk because I'm like, you know what, I don't have time for this today. I have a good day, I'm not letting this ruin it. There are other times where I will say something, and it's important to say something because that person will not know any better. And unfortunately, even if you do say something and they're still, I still say stuff to my friends, coworkers, etc., that they just don't understand why I say, like, there is a racial inequality. There is prejudice that goes on. I can tell you from my own experience. I can tell you from my dad's experience, and etc. And some people do not see that. But at the end of the day, it's not like I'm trying to fight them, but I know, you know, I can leave this place knowing that I said my piece about it, and I believe in staying true to what I say. I think growing up, I would laugh it off, and I don't think it's time to laugh it off anymore, and I don't think it's ever time to laugh it off. But I think it's, like we said, a time to embrace, but also a time to really, for the black folks, for the people of color folks, to teach what's going on, for the white folks to listen, ask, know that. And if you really don't believe that there is racial inequality, if you really are just there's no racism today, there's no slave, if you really don't believe, get to know a person of color's story and ask them your experiences, and just for a second, see if your situation, if someone were to ask you the same questions that they were tested, if they would have approached you in the same way that they approached them growing up, and compare your experience. The one thing that I do when I think about all of this, everything going on, the black, the white, the race, the generations, the protesting, the riots, the church, the everything, for me and what I was taught, and what's something that not only was I taught, but as a testimony of my life, is Christ. Like, it really is Christ. And I think that in the midst of this, I've even seen my younger sister, my older sister, my brother, all of us, even myself, stem away from that because it's so easy to get caught up in the race issue, and in the rioting, and in the coronavirus, and everything that's going on, that we forget, where's Jesus in all of this? What would he say if he were right here? And it's something that I have to check myself with. And I'm learning that, like, yeah, a lot of people say, like, I wish we could skip this year. And Tony Evans, you're my favorite pastor, don't get me wrong, but I did listen to Tony Evans, and he
tough competition.
did.
Tony Evans is
and he did say, Tony Evans said, we don't want to skip over this year. We want God. There is a struggle. God doesn't have you go through a struggle just to go through a struggle. There is something on the other side of it. But if you're not looking at that, if you're not trying to figure out, well, where is my role in this? If I'm not black, if I'm white, or vice versa, you're going through it too. We're all struggling here. That's one thing we can all relate to if we can agree on anything, right? And if we are, there's a reason for it.
I like that. I know you've had many discussions with white friends who have called you to talk about this, and some have been, shall we say, heated. But don't be afraid of that. You know, like when Pastor Mike called you, he just wanted to listen.
Right.
And that was a really cool approach. But not everybody comes at this discussion that way. And they've struggled, and there's been arguing, but at the end of the day, they're trying to reconcile their thinking and their thoughts and their arguments and the way that they've grown up with this. And progress is being made, and that's a good thing. And at the end of the day, we were talking about what would Jesus say, and I think Jesus would have us check the condition of our heart. You know, just humbly, without facts and rebuttals, check the condition of our heart. Really. That would be...
For me, I think that, well said. Well said. I think that coming to this church, and I really mean this, I feel very comfortable here. I know we still have a long way to go, but I think there's a lot of love in this church. I really do. And I think that it's come a long way. I think both sides need to listen, not just white America. I think black America needs to listen too, you know, to find out where, like she said, I've had a number of people call me recently. Man, I never knew you had to go through all this. I never knew you had to go. Well, I said, well, what did you think I had to go through? And then I would stop and listen to what they had to say. And then I want them to hear what I have to say. If everybody just listened a little bit to each other more, I think it means a lot.
That's a good statement. It's a good close. Thank you. It's a privilege for me to be here. I love this family. And their kindness towards me and their patience towards me is a great example of what Steve just said about listening. So Faith Community Church, I think the best thing for us to do is to close this time with prayer. Would you join me?
You got it.
Yeah. Steve, would you pray?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, the love that you put in it for us. Help us to glorify you. Help us to remember why we're down here, the purpose that we're all down here. We are all in this together. Help people to see Jesus Christ in us. Help us to love each other more. And help us to get back. Pray this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.